So finding projects where we're not just speculating, we're buying property and we're adding value. That became sort of an obsession that we've had since then is, okay, now we need to strike the face of reality here and make this community into something beautiful.
Welcome back to the GrindCast. So today we've got two of the most energetic and driven entrepreneurs you'll ever meet, Brecken and Davis Anderson. These brothers are the force behind Vitality Group, a real estate development company shaping St. George's future while staying true to its roots. Not only are they two of the happiest guys around, but they've built a rock-solid team and raised millions to bring big projects to life. Their passion goes beyond business. It's about creating a lasting impact for generations to come. Get ready for an inspiring conversation. Welcome to the GrindCast, Brecken and Davis Anderson.
Let's go.
Thank you. That was very nice.
You like that?
I like that intro. We're stealing that for the LinkedIn.
Perfect. Now you've got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Good, because it hasn't been updated in about 5 years.
Yeah.
But
It's on its way.
Yeah.
We're learning.
we might need to edit that part out, but that's okay. Right.
But yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the business Vitality Group right now and what you guys are up to.
Yeah. You want to start? Brecken, dive in.
Well, to your point, we're a full service real estate development company. So it started with brokering and we've just been on a mission to add value, and it's led us into some really amazing projects and ultimately allowed us to, be involved in just some amazing projects.
Yeah. You guys got some really cool projects that are coming up. So it's exciting to see.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's been a lot that's built up to that point, right? I remember a little while ago and you guys were raising money for this big project and I was like, wait, well, you're working on what? Like, this is such a cool project, you know? And then I know you guys got that one moving forward. That's your one that you have in Leeds, and such a cool thing that's going to be happening there.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
It's been crazy. Like we were talking about it recently, sort of the progression and seeing, especially in our space, like other developers and how you wind up in it. And it's a tough business to get into. It's expensive. And so there's all these sort of interesting, it's either like you were groomed into it through a family, right? Or you sort of find yourself there through, your own path. And I think for us, we just were blessed to be able to take it deal by deal and slowly scale it up and then get involved with the right people. So once we reached, I guess, more recently, a point where we felt like we were doing projects of true scale for our area, it had felt more natural because of, the groundwork that had been laid. So it was as crazy as it was kind of a natural progression.
I love that. And the groundwork I think is so important. And I want to go back to kind of where you guys started, because I think there's all those lessons that have learned along the way that led to what you're doing now, right? And so I know, Brecken, I know a little bit more about you because I know some of your businesses that you've had in the past. And then, we can probably talk too about, I know you've got some things, but where did that kind of, like, when the entrepreneurial journey, where did it start for both of you? So Brecken, if you want to start with that, where did that entrepreneurial journey start for you?
Where did it start? I mean, way back to when I was young. I remember when I was 13 or so, I started learning how to make these bracelets that had power cord. Have you ever seen them? Paracord, the emergency bracelets.
Yeah, okay.
And it's actually funny because I got really good at making them. I'm super excited about it. And then Davis came to me and said, hey, let's start selling these to some kids at the high school. And so I would say that's kind of where it started.
We teamed up early then.
Oh yeah.
There's been a lot of crossover, but then it snowballed into I joined an MLM when I was 14.
Nice. What?
Yeah, it was the biggest scam ever, but I learned some amazing things, and I've actually worked with some people we work with now that I met from that.
Interesting.
Oh wow.
And it was revolutionary in just teaching people like Tony Robbins principles.
Huh.
So it was super goofy at the time. We basically would buy a ton of energy drinks and try to sell them at football games.
Nice.
Okay.
And
MLM energy drinks.
yeah, it's called Lima. They were healthy energy ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it was this whole pitch of you'll get a Mercedes if you
There you
sell
go.
everyone and their mom energy drink.
Okay.
Can't drive, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that's kind of where it started. And obviously there was a lot of snowballing and things that didn't work out with all of these things.
Yeah.
I pretty much just spent $200 on energy drinks is what that was for me.
That explains the energy.
Oh, I've been wired ever since I was 14.
He carried that energy.
Yes.
Yeah. And now it's nice. I just have a little IV in my arm and it
Right.
just sips.
Is that
the
the secret?
caffeine. Yeah.
Because I did ask your sister, I said, is there ever a moment like where Brecken just doesn't have a ton of energy? And she's like, not really.
Brecken is the Energizer Bunny.
Yes.
He's the Energizer Bunny.
Yes,
No, but honestly, it really comes down to I actually love business. Like I've been a sucker for Shark Tank ever since I was a
Love it.
kid.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I found a book it might have actually been your book. When I was young, I found a book in my closet that was 100 letters from CEOs.
Oh.
And it was about this kid that was roughly my age that did a study of sorts, basically emailed all
I think
these.
my grandpa gave me that book, and I don't think I read it. To be
Okay.
honest.
Well, I read it. And I just it, honestly, at a very young age, I realized I wanted to be, at that time, a CEO. I was like, that sounds like so much fun. And that's kind of where it started.
That's awesome.
Was that the same for you, Davis, kind of that time frame?
I don't think I was much less lucid, I think, about positions within business or the concepts of business. I think I came from some sort of reverse engineered kind of positions. I think for me, it was important to have self-reliance and to have time freedom. I think kind of looking back now, our dad was a full commission salesman as long as we grew up. My grandfather was as well. My grandfather on my mom's side was an entrepreneurial guy, an attorney. So I think that was accepted in our family culture, that you could produce, that value wasn't just based on time alone, that there was ways to make things happen. So for me, it was just like an understanding that I could make money and that I could basically produce value beyond just with my time and beyond just with jobs. And I think at that base level, sort of caveman understanding of business for me is like, I look back and I was always selling things. I was always doing the Craigslist stuff, like selling furniture. And I worked at a consignment store. And within 2 weeks of working there, I was like, so you can just buy dressers and spray paint them and distress them. And I bring them into here and then they make all the money. I'm already doing this for you guys. And so just putting those things together came pretty naturally. And then was lucky to, kind of get into some positions early, like managing the local umpiring situation at the Little League baseball field was an early job. So I would subcontract to the local, 14-year-old population to come ump games for $20, and I'd get a spread.
So you're building teams early. So this is just
my job.
ingrained in you.
And I never had the language for it. I never really had early, I don't think I had an academic interest in it, but I just was interested in making money, etc. And then as time went on, you go on the mission. In my case, which came a little later, I tried a little stint at college, if you want the whole spiel.
Yes.
And then on the mission was just kind of learn some more executive function, how to plan, how to, all those basics. And I was in Brazil, so I learned Portuguese. So instantly I was just like, I want to be a cool business guy doing stuff in Brazil, right? And so within weeks of getting home, I was trying to connect to people I knew that were involved in global supply chains in some way, or logistics or business. Ended up getting involved with some people that were trying to get doTERRA into Brazil. And so that led me on a 3-year journey to help them out, and did importing product and helping with that process. And it just essentially threw me on another 3-year journey after the mission, where I was living in Brazil, and we'd stay 6 months. I married my wife, American.
Okay, I was going to ask.
But we moved back to Brazil, and so just had that whole journey of being self-employed contractor guy and
In Brazil.
in Brazil, and just
Wow,
like sort of
that's
having these short-term contracts instead of sort of trying to build long-term stuff along the way. And
Wait.
eventually,
So this is where I totally spaced on that. I was gonna say, what were we talking about earlier?
the CIA.
Yeah, the CIA.
No, I was legitimately in South America for
I was like,
years.
this is where the
For
CIA
4
comes
years.
in.
So when I emerged, a lot of people would say I don't have a digital footprint. I just never got one after the mission.
Yeah,
And
okay.
here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
that's the story.
learned a
anyways.
ton in Brazil, worked with a ton of dynamic people, and then just wanted to, again, for me, it was always a goal-oriented thing. I would sort of have something in our lifestyle we wanted,
Mhm.
and then we would try to work backwards. So for me and my wife, we were like, this is really fun, but we've gotten our fill out of traveling. And
Yeah.
we want to move to St. George and get a crappy house and have a family. And so we just like started that process. And for me, as a salesman, as a business guy, and starting to put together something a little more polished, it was what's the opportunities in St. George? Hey, here's a real estate team that looks interesting. And similar to those other businesses, after getting involved shortly with that team, within a year, I saw an opportunity to do this on my own. So I paid off the team. Long story, that was a battle, but got out of that team, got out on my own. And then from there, just started to broker commercial transactions instead of just houses and condos and townhomes.
So I like that though. So when you came back though, it wasn't like, okay, I need to go find a job. It was like, no, I want to find something where I'm creating value and I'm using these sales skills.
It was exactly that.
Okay.
It was exactly that. It was, and then even to the point where it was like, let me see if I can find a venue where guys I am aware of are succeeding, guys or gals I'm aware of are succeeding, and I think I'm as smart as them or as charismatic. I think I've got the raw skills. So if they can make a living, I can make a living and
I love
maybe
that.
even do better, compete. And so there was like, I think I was lucky to have like some self-belief. We were great parents that like put that in us.
Go
So
where
that
the money's
felt
being
possible.
made and
It felt possible.
right. Okay.
Yeah, it felt possible.
I love that.
So I just have to ask, like, that seems like a very smooth journey. Were there any challenges? I mean, there has to be, right?
It's never a
in
straight
America-
line, right? It's
Being
never a
poor
straight
in
line.
America sucks.
Being poor in Brazil.
Being poor in Brazil sucks. Maybe a little worse. And there was a time where, like, for me and my wife, just like learning how to negotiate for ourselves. Like, I didn't really know. I was like, $1,000 a month, sweet. Like, I'm just didn't. You start to learn economics. I was so young, everything was a crash course. So losing thousands of dollars of product and having to come hat in hand to the investor partner that you're working with and figure things out and make up gaps and like that catch up speed, like all of like the battle scars that I have sort of from that period, to be honest, made the transition to real estate feel easy.
Yeah.
Not easy, but felt very doable.
Yeah.
So many challenges I ran into in Brazil, I failed at. Like,
What was one of the biggest challenges out there that you faced in business?
I think like there was obviously a lot of technical challenge, but for me, I was like a young man in confronting working with adults
Mm-hmm.
that had adult problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was confronting that I did come from like a very sheltered perspective, and that I'd kind of had the privilege of being able to be pretty haphazard.
Mm-hmm.
And when you work with people that have so much on the line, right? And it's not just like this fun adventure.
Right.
I think the biggest challenge for me was when a technical issue within the business would come up. And I would just want to solve it to free up the team.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that was that sort of internal battle of wanting to solve problems for people, and just like the emotional anguish that you go through realizing that you can't,
Mm-hmm.
and no amount of economic or, you can't solve people's problems, right? So that was just like an early, I think, sort of confrontation with the limits to what you can do for others and what others can do for you. So yeah, I just think early on entrepreneurship's interesting, because I think in a lot of workplaces, there's this healthy separation of your life and your business.
Mhm.
Like it's like you go to work, you operate in this like space with rules, and like you're here, the referees are here, and then we sign out of the game, we go home, take off the the equipment. But in entrepreneurship, it's like we're on the phone at night, like kids are screaming in the background, like we're meeting in coffee shops, like in your neighborhood, like it's very personal. And so like I almost get emotional thinking about it, but just like the intimacy of business was just like overall a huge emotional maturation for me. Was just like, wow, this is real, this matters, there's good ways to do this. There's gradients beyond just doing what's right. There's really going above and beyond, and the value of that. And then also understanding, limits within that, and when to be disciplined and when to have to. So just that whole, I think any entrepreneur who works with a team learns that.
Yeah.
But like sort of going into that right off the bat with frankly not having the raw skills and forcing them to be chipped away so fast was just like an aggressive trajectory for me. I wouldn't do it any other way, but it was painful.
Well, I like that though, because there's kind of like this threshold of pain and challenge, and we kind of, whatever we experience that stuff, we kind of measure everything to that. So like if somebody hasn't really experienced something hard yet, like then when they go and they start to go into real estate, then it seems like this overwhelming thing because their threshold's here and that's sitting here.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself and you subject yourself to those challenges that are there, and you're like, I'm just going to jump in, or jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down, right?
Yeah.
Then then that threshold now is moved up here. So now this challenge of starting into real estate and doing public speaking or whatever it is, like if I can do this and I survived, then I can do this and I can make it happen.
That's very well said. And so, yeah, I think kind of it was a painful process, but it was like we learned so much. We got that business to a really good place, that operation. And then coming back to the States, it was like such a nice opportunity it was my first time in my life that I'd had like a conclusion to a successful project. You know what I mean? In a business sense. So it's like being able to I think is one of the fruits of entrepreneurs is having that little bit of freedom early where like we get these little moments of maybe it's like a small exit or a little bit of cash flow or something that has allowed you through your efforts, again, to transcend your time and be like, okay, I've got a little runway here to figure my life out. I've done this scrappy. I've done this by the skin of my teeth. Maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I've earned, and my wife has earned, frankly, like the opportunity to do this a little more responsibly this go around, from a little more of a place of abundance than necessity. So doing business in that way with the same intensity was also like, it was just so relieving and good. So early business challenges, to your point, they battle harden you and they
don't be afraid of them. Go for them.
And they set the stage, right?
Yeah.
For inevitably you're going to face similar challenges, probably harder ones, but you kind of learn that cumulative stack that you've had early leads to, the armor, the strength that you need to take on the next venture. So
with each battle, you gain a little extra confidence, I think.
Yeah. And then hopefully practically, right, you're disciplined and you start to learn that, okay, we're going to put some money aside. We're going to, for the next venture, we're going to, and I know we've talked about this at lunch when you were starting a company where you're like, you kind of earned through a lot of hard work the ability to start companies without needing to pay the piper the same amount of stress.
Yeah.
It's like you already paid that by earning the money in some ways. So it's getting a little esoteric now, but to be honest, for me, it was huge just to be able to come back, to have that little runway, to operate with like a lower cortisol level. and then also
like you're not starving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then all the challenges I've faced since then in real estate thus far, thank goodness, have been challenges that I felt very proactive. That I chose this. We're struggling for something we care about. We're building something.
Yeah.
Versus like, we need to figure out how to buy a plane ticket back to the States.
Oh yeah.
We got to make this happen. You know what I mean? So it's just, and I would even say that to anybody listening is like, you have to, there is no way to, I don't believe, for me at least, there was no way to cross that first chasm without paying that price.
Agreed.
But I paid it early and in full. And I felt like mentally, and I probably say this, I'm about to get smacked in the world, right, with some other lesson, because that's just how you learn
That's how
life
it
works.
is.
But at least that part of entrepreneurship, it felt earned. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
for sure.
So,
Yeah. And I think the great thing is, when you go through all of those lessons, you start to realize that they all just end up working out, one way or another. And it's not always the way you want them to or the way you think they're going to, but it's not as bad as you think it's going to be, And so, and sometimes it's worse, but for the most part,
that's huge though.
yeah, for the most part, you find out like it does work out. And so you're like, when you hit just a really big challenge, you're like, okay, this really sucks, but somehow it's going to work out, So I wanted to just ask before we move on from South America, like, can you share with us like one like epic story?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let us hear it.
Oh, hear it.
Going back, so which one?
Just only one.
Let's think. I've been deported from Brazil. Yeah.
I knew there were some good ones. I had a feeling.
I've had my mom. I mean, I don't know what I can share on here. I've had my mom fly in with thousands of dollars of product in her suitcase.
Oh, funny.
We've done like a lot of we've done every like entrepreneur run around thing, but I think one of the best stories probably is my deportation story. I guess I'll tell that.
Yes, let's hear it.
That
That is interesting.
We've all, and it depends on which border, because we've had some issues in Paraguay and we've had some issues in the Brazilian border.
Okay.
So I empathize, by the way, with a lot of people. Like, immigration sucks. It's a tough process because the experience of getting your itinerary ready. To caveat this, and anybody who knows anything about visas, etc. So you have essentially like a 6-month, business visa or tourist visa, whatever it is. And then you can go within 6 months, you can spend, or within a year, you can spend 6 months of the calendar year with a break in between. Some weird rules, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I was about a day early from the restart of my 6-month.
Oh.
But I had thought that I had a few days of not used within the 6-month of my year mark. So long story short, I had no more days to be in Brazil, and I thought that I had a few.
Uh-oh.
And I had planned a whole trip. I had planned, business meetings. I had planned lunches. I'd planned places to stay. I booked Ubers, all the stuff, right? Or booked rental cars, etc.
Mm.
So everything gets set up. I fly into Brazil. This is towards the end of my journey, so I'm a seasoned veteran by now. I got all my travel is flawless, right? I get into the country. I've been to immigration 1,000 times. We're going through. I hand them my passport. They're going through, and then I can tell they're starting to have issues. And even at this point, I'm not alarmed. This happens all the time. They see that I've been in and out of the country a lot, and so they take me aside. They sit me down, and again at this point, I'm like, whatever. I'm calling my wife. And then they start to kind of like, I see that they're bringing people in, and then they bring somebody in from the airline. A couple hours pass, and I speak Portuguese. I'm trying to talk to some. Nobody will tell me, they don't know. Long story short, it goes through the chain of bureaucracy that is the case. They come back and they say, listen, you need to go. You don't have any more days on your visa. Like, you need to fly back to the US. Like, Delta is going to put you on a flight and fly me back. It's their obligation. Right. And so I'm sitting there, and it's like me and a couple of guys from Africa. I've been talking to them, and they had a situation where they had planned on filling out their visa paperwork when they got there, and they just didn't do it. So they kind of knew that was a risk, and they're like, it's not a big deal. They'll put us on a plane, and then they'll fly us back to a country of origin. And I was like, that's not an option. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm gonna make calls. I'm this guy. Like, I'm doing business here. That's how I'd operated in Brazil up until that point. Was just like, with enough effort, it seemed like you could get close. You
Make things happen.
You can solve 60% of these things.
Okay.
And I thought this was for sure one of those. And after basically just refusing to leave and getting chewed out and making all the calls to people I thought had connections, I essentially was just put in a little hotel holding area for a few hours, and then into a hotel or in a airport hotel, and they flew me back home.
Wow.
I waited 7 days, and then I flew back.
Oh my gosh, that's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not
Okay.
fun.
Story of deportation there.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Somebody would come by the hotel room, check, make sure I was there.
yeah, make sure you didn't.
I had like a buddy, yeah, like a their TSA, like their immigration.
Okay.
That's
It was fun.
So Brecken, during this time,
Mm.
you had some other businesses
Mm-hmm.
as well. So what was
Yeah.
your journey? What led you to real estate?
Yeah. So mine was not nearly as exciting.
You didn't.
I don't know about
You didn't get deported.
I never got deported. I jumped on the more traditional track. I was the golden goose for my grandpa in regards to school. So early in high school, I got involved in a program that led me to get my associate's degree in high school, which then I was considered a college student in high school. So I got an internship in California working for our uncle, who eventually became a mentor of mine. He's one of the smartest guys I know. Owned a real estate credit lending company. So he put me in the data analytics division where I was not partnered. I would work alongside their head of data analytics and underwriting. And that was really cool because I got to see firsthand how corporate America was evaluating real estate deals. So that was my first taste of real estate. And that was a phenomenal opportunity. But I was a young kid and I was in Newport sleeping in their guest room and would walk to the office because he would stay later and stuff. But that's where I got the first taste of real estate.
And the first taste of the freak in the sheets.
The freaking sheets.
Yeah.
So
You might want to give him context.
Brecken has a nickname. He's the freak in the sheets, but he's going to explain that.
yeah, I really don't know if it was nature or nurture, but I had a math teacher that I loved. Mrs. Snow.
There are kids
I was in,
watching
like,
too,
sixth
so be
grade.
careful.
Mrs. Snow.
Long story short, from an early age, my math class was my favorite class.
Okay.
So that's what led me to get into the data analytics. And I just love math for whatever reason. It was the first time I'd have peace of 1 + 1 = 2, no matter what. You'll come to see a difference between Davis and I, and this is why we work phenomenally together.
Does it?
I hated English. I would write a paper, the teacher would just basically be like, I don't like it. And I hated her for saying that.
You had a very particular way of things happening.
And I finally had a teacher that was just like, no, you have the right answer. And I was like, really? And so anyways, that's what led me to fall in love with math. Like we can go into nerdy details. I ended up starting a club. It's called the Mathematical Modeling Club. I led 14 people to this like international competition where we were called M²C, like MC squared.
Okay.
So I was a very nerdy one. I was envious of Davis my whole life. If you want to see the definition of living life fully and richly, that was kind of Davis.
Wow.
No, I mean that as a compliment. And so I was looking up to Davis as, wow, I wanted to travel and kind of do all those things. And I felt as though I couldn't do what he was doing. So really my path was, okay, I had this mentor, my uncle, who was brilliant. And he always told me that it really doesn't matter what you do, as long as you become the best at it. He's like, the sky's your limit, basically. He's like, you want to do data analytics with this guy? He's like, become the best. And you will have opportunities way above anything you can imagine. So I had a very unique experience where that internship, there was quite a few people interning at his company. I built a really good relationship with their head of data analytics. It's essentially underwriting.
Okay.
And so he started kind of mentoring me and teaching me how to analyze these high level profile deals. They were buying 300 million worth of foreclosure deals, essentially refinancing them back to people and then selling them on the secondary market. He showed me the behind the scenes of then leveraging it with Wells Fargo, like 92-8, and then selling it 96-4, and just these really impressive instruments that blew my mind. And I barely understand them now, let alone then. But one thing I did learn is that I love Google Sheets or Excel, which is where the term freak in the sheets came, because I got really good at it. And I've strived since then to become the best at it. So that was my taste of
And I've seen your sheets, and I will test. You are the best.
I'm laughing.
It's like there could be something simple, like I would go in there, I'm like, I'm going to take 2 lines, and Brecken's like, I've got this whole masterpiece that's created.
He's got
like,
equations.
Well, you could bring my wife in, and she makes fun of me every time we're at a dinner party because when I am stressed, I go work in Excel. And because I'm like, honey, you don't realize it will trickle down and it will be this beautiful end product. And it all correlates together and it runs smoothly. And 1 + 1 = 2. Logic exists
and the English
in the world.
can't tell you that she doesn't like it.
No! I'm like, why is it that, like, if I punch someone in the face, they should punch me back? Like, there should be an equal and opposite reaction, but it's just not the case in the real world. And so, anyways, long story short, I go on a mission. I served in Middle Eastern Europe. Really cool experience over there. And then I come back, go back to university. I was studying applied and computational math, emphasis in data analytics. So that's where I kind of got more into that and then started the club, M²C. And it was a phenomenal opportunity. It was really cool. I had a mentor, Wino Chelamutu.
Okay.
He was the head of the math division at Utah Tech. And long story short, our little club got funded.
That's awesome.
Utah Tech hired us, and then Zion National Park hired us to essentially model out these real world problems and provide solutions using that. So we would bring in, it was actually really cool. So we would bring in we had 14 of us. So you were either on a team of 3 or 4, and you'd bring in a math major, a programming major, and then an English or communications major, and then sometimes a law major. So it was the funnest experience because we basically do these fake problems in school, and I was so sick of fake problems. I'm like, listen,
Like a real deal.
I wanted the real deal, and I felt like I was doing the real deal. And then we got funding, and then I quickly learned that funding led to just pizza once a week versus us actually getting paid. And I hated it because I wanted to take girls on dates and I couldn't do it.
That's hard enough with the math as a math guy, right?
It's hard.
With all the physical challenges.
Listen, it's surprised I don't have a hunchback yet. So
Into the craft.
yeah, and we could talk about my horror stories of my programming vice president wanting to be the president and us fighting that out. He ended up
Is this
going
like
to
a Google
MIT.
sheet fight or like a real like?
Well, I'm not as great at confrontation, especially at that time.
Okay.
And it was Reno Chelamutu, our mentor, myself, and then Jaden. Forgetting his last name. He went to MIT. He's the smartest kid I know. He was like 16, and we're in like numerical analysis together, which is
I was gonna say, be careful.
free.
He's probably our boss somewhere in the.
He's probably running the.
He's running the servers.
Say good things, right?
We should find him. He was brilliant. Like, anyways, long story short, he said I should be president, and I didn't say anything, and just left and was like, stewing on it in my room. And I'm like, how am I going to confront him? I want to be president. Long story short, I asked him, and he's like, you should be president. Worked out. But anyways, I kind of was fed up because I wasn't making money, and I was working so hard in this club. Like, we were, once a week we'd meet. I would do, like, from my mission, you'd always do, like, a little lesson at the start, a little 10-minute message, and then we'd go into problems. Anyways, it was a really cool club, but I wasn't making any money. And I met a kid, his name's Hunter Davidson, total stud, and he was grinding concrete floors. And he was getting paid, like $1,000 for, preparing a garage floor. And I was blown away. I was
You're like, I'm getting paid in pizza.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is so dumb. And so, anyways, not to get into too many details, I end up working with him to start a concrete coating business, of which we would do epoxy floors, grind them. We basically beautify and make them more durable. And we had a lot of success. We started off, I had a 4Runner, a 1994 4Runner. So the back window would roll down and then the thing would fall open, and we would throw a hand grinder in there and a shop vacuum, and we'd go knock doors. And we would basically say, hey, we can grind your floor today. And,
I love that hustle though. Like let's go knock doors. Let's find some business.
It was a hard hustle.
Yeah.
For anyone that's grinded concrete, it is hard
Watched
work.
it.
And dust is flying everywhere. I'll probably have cancer by the time I'm 60. And it was a grind, but we were
Literally.
making money. It was literally a grind at the GrindCast. Yes. I love grinding with you guys. This is so
Great.
fun.
I know the t-shirts are going to be coming out soon.
Okay, good. I grind in with Christian.
I told her that you gave me that idea, and I was like, you're going to laugh, but this is the idea that came from Brecken. Of all people that I know.
He's like, there's a lot.
He is the one that I didn't think that.
But the premises were grinding. Listen, going back to the concrete coating, we had grind jokes for like 3 years.
Oh.
So if you want a whole folder,
so that's where we get them from.
oh yeah. But anyways, long story short, we did it all cash. We would have people pay us a 50% deposit. We'd use that to buy stuff or rent stuff at that time. And we slowly started building this concrete coating business.
So you didn't have any money when you started it.
Okay, no. So our very first job, we got a $10,000 job.
Wow.
Very first job.
Wow.
That's a little intimidating.
Very intimidating. Fortunately, my business partner at the time had been doing concrete coatings, so he knew what he was doing.
That's
generally.
Generally.
And we go to the guy and we're like, hey, we're so stoked. You're on the schedule. We're going to do this. And he goes, perfect. And we're like, we just need to pay a 50% deposit. And he's like, no. And, he said no. And so we basically were like, how on earth are we going to cover the cost of the product?
Mm.
And this goes back to getting a little creative. We basically, talked him into, we've said, hey, we need a 50% deposit. We really got to do it. And he says, well, I'm not going to pay it unless you drop product off at our front, at our house. He's like, I've been screwed over before and this is $5,000. And so him and I went back home and we, tried to figure out how much money we had. I had, I think like $800 saved up, all the energy drinks I sold. And he had like $400. And so we took $1,200. We went to Sherwin-Williams and we said, how much product can we buy? Because they sell them these like gallon, they're liquid paint basically. And they loaded up my 4Runner with $800 or $1,200 worth of paint.
So you put everything.
Every single dime. I kid you not, I didn't have a bank account at this time.
Oh.
So I didn't have a debit card or credit card, nothing. So it was cash.
Wow.
And long story short, we showed up and we put them kind of in bigger boxes too. And I don't want to, he may be watching this, but we showed up and we dropped off this product in these big boxes and we're like, hey, here's all the product for your floor. And he goes, that just doesn't look like enough. And we're like, well, we ordered some of it. It's going to come. And fortunate for us, he agreed and paid us $5,000. And we used that $5,000 to actually go buy the rest of the product, buy a shop vacuum and a hand grinder. And we had a little bit enough to rent a big grinder because there's a big difference between those two.
Yeah.
And we started our company that way.
Wow.
How did the floor
That's
turn out?
fascinating.
It was actually great.
Okay.
We were at the start, we were great. Let me preface that.
Okay.
And then we realized we were way better at sales than we were actually grinding concrete. So we began selling like crazy. And so I was hiring my friends from high school and we were trying to figure out how to grind floors and train people on how to grind floors. We cauliflower knocked the neighborhoods. We were like the definition of just hustling like crazy. And we're growing it. We finally saved up it was like $2,700. And my business partner was like, I just found a truck for $2,500. It's a Chevy Silverado, 2009 long bed cab. It was sick. And we're like, let's do it. So we went and bought it. And keep in mind, I was technically in college and I was living in my parents' basement. So our costs are super low. And we took that, we went and bought a truck. And then we just basically snowballed it into eventually saving enough to buy a trailer and then an actual grinder. And then my partner came to me and said, hey, my girlfriend's moving to University of Utah. And I'm like, really? Or UVU, sorry. And he's like, really? And he's like, I think you stay down here. I'll launch it up in Utah County. And we're like, oh, I don't know if we could do this. Long story short, we both drive up together and we're looking at storage units because we thought that was the first thing we were going to need to start it up there.
Mhm.
And we're walking around the storage units late at night, and we come across this guy that's got like 3 garage doors open, big Hispanic guy. And he walks out and goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And we're just naive little kids. We're like, "What's up? You know, we're thinking about starting a concrete coating business up here." This whole time, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're just doing it. And we start talking to the guy, and the guy was basically fixing and flipping washing machines, dryers.
It's fascinating.
It
Okay.
was a fascinating business, and we thought he had it in the bag. He had like 3 employees in there, all cranking at it.
Huh.
It's late at night, and we were just talking, and we're like, "Hey, what do you think we should do? We're thinking about doing this." And he goes, "In life, there's ceilings put above you, and you need to break through the ceiling."
That is going to make an awesome short form video right there.
Break through the ceiling.
I love it. Okay.
And so, long story short, we bought this, paid for the storage unit that night, and then we paid for a month of marketing. We got really good at online marketing, and we basically said, "Okay, Hunter, because he was moving up here, if you can pre-sell a month ahead of time, we will make the investment to buy another truck." This one it was a little bit more, but buy another truck and basically launch up there. And long story short, he was able to book us out a month, and we were booked out a month ever since. And we opened it up there, and then we were approached by a guy in Idaho to do a franchise. Because at that time we got really good pricing. We were spending right under 40 grand a month in product.
Mhm.
And so we were working with a lot of money. Our first year we did right under $1 million.
Wow.
Wow.
So like I said, we were phenomenal salesmen, and we were just juggling to do the fulfillment.
Okay.
And so yeah, guy franchised up in Idaho. So I'm in St. George, my partner's in Utah County, and then this guy's up in Idaho. And then anyways, I ended up meeting a girl, and I love her, and she was in St. George. We ended up falling in love, and we were like, okay, we need to move up to Salt Lake. So we move up to Salt Lake because that's where headquarters were going. That's where expansion's going. And we had like 20 employees. We're like
Wow.
really juggling a lot of stuff. And I had a job where a guy, there's fires constantly.
Yeah.
This product is very finicky. So it's one small
Like literal
mistake.
fires?
No, never real literal fires. But it's basically like a permanent liquid. So it drops on the concrete. You got to tear that whole concrete up. So my job became fires all day. So I was over operations. My partner was over sales, actually. And which was interesting because I knew nothing about grinding concrete.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm really good at the numbers, which usually leads into game planning, which leads into fulfilling the game plan, just being attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, long story short, had a moment with one of my clients that this was after a full just fires constantly, where I got basically this guy just started cussing me out like crazy. And I said, okay, no worries. We'll come back tomorrow on Saturday and redo the whole floor. So we come back the next day, redo the whole floor. And I stay after with this guy for like 2 hours, walking the place and like, making sure it's perfect. And the guy, I think we're good. We then leave. I then come back the next day to collect payment. And the guy is basically just so angry. And I can't explain why. I really don't know why, because we did everything we could. And he just starts cussing me out.
Wow.
And I guess I wasn't going to share this, but one crucial part of this guy was a police officer. So he's in full police outfit. He's got a gun on his hip. I should have reported him.
A bit
looking back.
intimidating then.
Very intimidating. I'm this naive kid. I just got married. I forced my wife to move up to Salt Lake to try to grow this business. And this was during the smoke storms in Salt Lake and COVID. So basically we really didn't like Salt Lake. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was destroyed. And so I went back talking with my wife, and I get a call from one of my friends. He's like, hey, do you want to go rock climbing? And I'm like, no. And I love rock climbing. So we realized I was in a bad spot. My wife was in a bad spot. I was driving to Idaho and then St. George once a month, and just things were rough. And so I approached my business partner after my wife and I talked, and we were like, hey, can you just take me out, buy me out for whatever, pay me anything? I really don't care. I was like, I'm done.
You're not like, I'm not happy here. I need to
Yeah.
go do something else.
And fortunately, he said yes. And my wife and I sold everything we owned, and we moved to Europe for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And
Just needed like a reset or
complete reset. And it was so much fun. And so we traveled around Europe, started, if anyone's read the book, The Alchemist,
Mhm.
love that
Great
book and highly recommend it. It starts in southern Spain.
Okay.
So that's where we started. And we tried to follow the path, but COVID wouldn't let us go to Morocco. So we went north.
okay.
And anyways, we had so much fun. And that at that time I was talking with Davis. And Davis, of course, was kind of like, I mean, don't get all cherry. He was kind of my hero at the time.
At the time,
I-
before he worked with me.
No, I looked up to Davis a lot, and I'm a big like dreamer. Like I have dreams, and I've always had this vision of me working with Davis. And so Davis finally agreed to allow me to work with him. And he's like, but you gotta get your license. And I'm like, great, I'll do it. So while we were in Europe, I just got my license and was so excited. And I came back and started working with Davis in real estate, initially as the broker or as like an agent.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So that would have been what, 2021, somewhere around 2022 or
It was 3 years ago. So
years ago, 2022.
21 or 2. Yeah.
because I had
Somewhere-
3 years in May. So
Okay.
yeah. And so and I was as naive as can be. Like Davis was like, dude, buy a house, let's get rolling. So I moved home from Europe, entering a new industry. I buy a house. Don't know how I got qualified for that. And fortunately the house allowed me to house hack, so now it's great. And I started working with Davis, and I got back into sheets because you got to underwrite deals. And it was just, obviously it's been a journey, and it's been so much fun. So yeah.
Quick caveat to that: Brecken coming on to my business, to our business, was like tongue and groove, fit very naturally the second he came on board, and that was a huge catalyst for kind of what came next with the growth of the business, from being just real estate agents, hired guns, sort of scrappy flippers, stuff like that, into being able to do the kinds of projects that we really wanted to do all along. So
I love that. So you both got together. That, you know, when you came back, you both got together. Like, okay, now we have this brotherly team,
Yeah.
and
We're going to take over the world.
and you're doing just more traditional real estate at that point in time.
Davis, you were doing a lot of like investment based.
got involved really early with with the different layers of investment. So at the very beginning, you're helping people buy condos or townhouses in town that cash flow that they're going to rent out, back when everything penciled, right? With mortgage rates being really low. So I got used to knowing the basic metrics for investors: cap rates, capital expenditure, all of the basic things that they run, taxes, insurance, all of those numbers, and knew how to look at opportunities that way. I think by then I might have brokered and put together maybe one development deal. And I think what really came in and helped that transform from being just traditional real estate agents to sort of taking it to the next level, frankly, was Brecken's institutional level of analysis. Frankly, it was nice to have. Like, I could explain all of it, I could read all of it, I could talk to investors about it. But Brecken being able to put that down on the Google Sheets or on the Excel spreadsheet, and then go over in real time the numbers and the consequences of certain actions, and how we can, sort of have this tool, this calculator with us all. It sounds so basic, but for me, that's continued to be a theme having Brecken in the business. Is you don't really know what you don't have when you're like a solo entrepreneur and it's going well. You're just like, maybe social media would be good, but I'm doing good. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
And then like you get it and then it works really well, for example. Or in my case, like I was doing well. I was putting together things that I thought were exciting. But once Brecken came on and added, frankly, a lot of polish and organization and sort of systematically approaching our business in the way that was lacking on my part. I think I was a very sort of hunter-gatherer approach of my business. It was just, hey, we've got this great deal, we're going to put it together. But now we both can just sort of focus on our superpower, which is
Awesome.
Brecken doesn't need to go source every single deal and turn over every single rock and make every single negotiation and deal with the anger. And I like put me in the fire with people, right? Like that's where I want to be is solving the challenges with people. Like I can take emotion. I can take listen, Brazilians are very emotional. So I think at this point I'm just like, yeah, like let's work it out. I feel confident fighting and, you know, doing the argument de-escalation and holding the line and not giving too much. Like that whole process I love because I love solving. But what Brecken does, I think is it's underrepresented even in like these circles of entrepreneurship, where you've got a guy like Brecken who can take the vision that we have as salesmen, as entrepreneurs, as deal makers, and then execute it and have a line item for it and a budget for it. And so, yeah, to put it very
beautiful
simply,
pro forma for it.
yeah, to put it very simply, these sort of awkward adolescent, you know, growth that we had as entrepreneurs and getting to a place where we could apply that in a really professional setting and go deep, which is real estate in Southern Utah. And it's like, it just helps that we're nerds about it. We love it. We love this community. Right. And so again, just that little bit of polish for people that are figuring things out now or surviving now, that extra step is worth taking. And so Brecken helped, I think, my business take that step. And frankly, that's where we became partners very quickly.
Yeah.
Was that I craved the partnership aspect. I think that I didn't know that I did. But when Brecken came on, it wasn't like he worked for me for a little bit, but then pretty soon it was, this is our thing. And we've got something good going here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys, you started doing that, and that was when you started kind of eyeing bigger projects. You're like, we've got this great partnership, and we can underwrite these bigger deals, right? We have a better understanding of that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it kind of came very organically. Like we did a lot of house flips, and what we came to realize, I mean, obviously underwriting the house flip is these investors usually were working full time and had a good pay, and they didn't have time to manage a house to flip. And so we started taking a lot more active role in just managing a house flip, a construction project, and then helping them sell it. And then things very quickly started snowballing into, hey, instead of a house flip, like townside estates, like a subdivision, basically.
So you were working for some investors. They were flipping it. But
so that was a crucial part of it, I guess.
And that was the snowball.
Yeah, we didn't have money, right? Like we just had we were maybe at the point where, like a lot of people, you're making a couple $100,000 here and there a year, right? You're doing well and you've got this business. But once we started to kind of do some of that sort of transition between, we know how to find these deals, so we could sell them, we could produce capital now, right? We put some of that aside and did what was a kind of our first deal together outside of these investment deals, which was Townside Estates, just downtown St. George. Just like an old redevelopment project where there was an old house. Knocked it down. We worked with the city and subdivided 3 lots and fixed a house. And that was the first project that was 100% our own money. And I think that was the one that was like, wow, like, and that was out of necessity. It was like, we tried to raise money and we couldn't put it together. It was a great deal. So we just pushed the chips in the middle. I think since then, that gave us a really outsized return. That led to doing a project we're really excited about, which we just finished, which was the China Palace restaurant on Wall Street, which you're very aware of.
Yes.
In fact, a little insight.
I guess we share that.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Christian invested in that deal and did well. But what happened there was we learned that process of, okay, now we're a player in this, and we can go to a guy like Christian and say, hey, we've got $150,000 in this deal too. We're invested in this deal. And so we bought that strip center, right?
Yep.
We went through the process of raising capital, of putting our own capital in, of getting the financing, of then releasing, fixing a burnt down property, using the insurance money from the past seller. And I think the pride that we now have to as locals to see Sandtown Pizza operating in that location. It's this like thriving, amazing community watering hole that we can like go enjoy, and like seeing the mural painted that the local artist painted, and seeing, Jorge then, buy the project from us, and have us have this great exit, and then have Jorge do a great project. And then the barbershop, seeing a local investor that's a teacher and a warehouse manager buy that property. Like that's wealth moving from, for us, that was a gentleman that owned that property prior, that lived in Minnesota. He had no connection to the property. It was totally dilapidated. To now it's owned by 3 independent local operators that care about the community, that have invested money and time, and businesses are built on top of it. So those little microcosms for us began to be like more of the alchemy aspect of this, of being like, we can do this. We've got a little bit of economic power. We've got aligned partners that are interested in the work that we can do. And then we have the technical ability to source and then underwrite deals that have the kinds of returns that, let's be honest, returns need to be really good in real estate right now. It's tough to make things pencil. Money's expensive. Land values are expensive. And so finding projects where we're not just speculating, we're buying property and we're adding value. That became sort of an obsession that we've had since then, is, okay, now we need to strike the face of reality here and make this community into something beautiful. And so those opportunities have become, I think, paramount to what we do now, is the investment real estate. We still sell houses, and that's, we sold $50 million of real estate last year, which is up there with some of the top agents. But, that's of course weighted by a lot of, land sales, etc. We still sell the houses, but for us, if we can leverage our time, our focus, our investors that have an appetite for these kinds of deals, that's where we'd like to get involved. And so you've seen a lot of the fun things that we're putting together.
And I just want to tell you too, just from the perspective of somebody who is invested in one of your projects, I get approached, almost daily about projects, and most obviously I turn down, but there's very few that are actually well thought out. And I think that's the one thing that's different with you two, is I can tell like they're well thought out. You believe in your project so much. In fact, like sometimes when people come to me with a project and I'm like, okay, I need either personal guarantees or cross collateralization or whatever. And just for those that are listening, that means that maybe I want to secure my money on that property and maybe something else just because I want to keep it safe. You guys had so much belief in this project. You were like, we'll personally guarantee it. We'll do whatever. Like we believe in it.
Finance.
And that's, I think, the nice thing. Whereas a lot of other people that will come to me, I don't think they know how to underwrite it as well. And so there's a big question mark. They're like, well, we hope this works out, and if it doesn't,
they're comfortable sticking you with
exactly. And I inform them, I'm like, hey, if something happens here, like I'm the first one to lose money typically, right? But you guys were, it was great working with you on that one, because you believed in what you had there, and you had done so much due diligence on it to make sure that it was worthy.
We appreciate it.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
It's sacred to us. I think one thing that Brecken and I really, really care about are old school values, the fundamentals. And so much so that, we're learning that we've got to pick up some of the social media value, et cetera. But really honoring an investor's money and being willing to put yourself on the line for any deal that you're in, I think is something that our market, our society, our real estate business culture would really take value from. Is, hey, maybe we should be a little more responsible about some of the deals that we're doing, even if they seem like they're great. It's not always just about pure risk mitigation, et cetera. And I hope to be doing deals with the people that we're working with for forever, right? Not doing this because we have to. We're doing this because we enjoy it. We love it, right? And so I think when you take that kind of pride in it, you build good things, you pass good value on to the ultimate buyer, and your investors feel valued and cared for as well. And consequently, they'll invest in your deals because they know that. Yeah.
I'd love you guys care about whoever's investing with you. And I love that. I have some people that come to me and I can tell that they're in it more for themselves. They don't care about the investor. And right away, even if it's a good deal, I'm out. I don't want to work with somebody who doesn't care about whether or not I lose money, right? And I want to be like, I want to do multiple deals with somebody. I want to help make projects go. And it's really fun.
Well, and this is, I mean, right along this vein, and this is so crucial in what we're doing, is we're very early in what we're doing. Like we plan on doing this for the next 40 years. And we love that. So 40 years down the road, who knows what it's going to look like, but we do believe and know that it will work. It will look way better if you treat people right and you actually do good work.
Yes.
Like that was one of the reasons on our land deals, we have found some amazing partners because we do some very complex land deals and we could get into those if we'd like. And we recognize very quickly that that is a complex field. And there is people that are phenomenal in their expertise in those fields. And at the end of the day, like I love the idea of going to the grocery store and maybe I see you or anyone and I want to be excited when they see me because we love what we do. We feel as though vitality, I mean, the whole definition of vitality is breathing life.
It's you.
It's breathing life into things. And if you can breathe life into your personal side, but also your work side, like things become so much more vibrant. And that's really why we love what we do. Like the whole police officer yelling at me for concrete coatings. If a police officer yelled at me on Bluff Street in the very similar situation, I would take it. I totally would. And it's because we love what we do. And it's so exciting. We're solving, in my opinion, some of the biggest problems in the world. It's crazy. I mean, from our perspective.
So I have to ask, just so that kind of people who are similar to you guys have that ambition to get started, where would you say, because I know like finding money is definitely a source of challenge, right? So what have you guys found that is like, where do you find your investors? Like, how are you able to come across the money you need? Like, how can you share that with people?
Can I share one quick thing? Sure, for you, and then you can jump in. So this goes back to underwriting 101. Very, very principally, you've got a horse, you've got a jockey, and you've got a race. The horse, at the end of the day, is the deal. Is it a good deal? Okay, that is crucial. It has to be a good deal. Second one is the race worth being in? Do you want to be in UPS? Maybe not. Maybe that's not a race you want to be in, even if it's the best deal ever. And then the second one, or the third one, which is almost more important or just as important as the first two, is the jockey. Who's the person that's going to ride on that horse? And I would say foundationally, and then you can jump in, is you got to have all three, in my opinion, to feel comfortable enough to approach someone to ask for their money.
I love that.
If you lack some of them, you got to find someone that can help fill those gaps.
Meaning if you don't have the skills to figure out that part, finding somebody else that has those skills to help bridge that.
And this goes back into the long-term vision. You have to view this as a career. And we do. And that's why going back to the basics, like you got to know how to dribble and you got to know how to lay up and then hit a free throw. And a lot of people listen to Bigger Pockets or Pace Morby and they say, oh, perfect. I find 5 houses. I'm going to get, passive income. I'm moving to Caribbean and I'm going to live great. And I'm like, and if anyone that does that, I fully applaud them, but I will never invest with that person. Never. I want to invest in the person that finds an area they feel as though they can become the best in and pursues it and is pursuing it and wants to pursue it. That's the jockey you want on your horse. Seriously.
I love that.
It's something that I'll be honest, I think I have a lot of humility about the aspect because every time somebody invests in our deals, I'm just like so grateful.
Yeah.
And I understand how hard it is to obtain capital. And so it's like, that's why I say it's sacred. It's just like, this is people's life force is their money, right? That's what they created. And then when you offer them an investment opportunity, that's an opportunity for them to preserve and grow that force that they've already paid the price, like we were talking earlier, to get. A lot of times it's an expensive price, right? Yeah. It's tough money to get. And so for me, I think to Brecken's point, like number one, is it a good deal? Because there is like a fundamental principle where, and this is like for anybody listening, it's like a deal guy, you're trying to put things together. Good deals, money will find good deals, whether it's with you or the next guy, or it's properly structured, or it's appropriately packaged. so then you work backwards, right? You say, okay, you have those fundamentals that Brecken just mentioned that make the deal a fundamental good deal. Then the question is, do I have the technical skills to tell the story about this deal?
Ooh, I like
You know what I mean? Like,
Selling it as a whole nother story.
not even just having the deck. Can I competently talk about this? And I actually think there can be many levels of depth within that.
Mhm.
You don't need to know everything. That doesn't need to be your role. You're not an excavator. Maybe you are, and you can use those superpowers. So use your expertise. And then this is crucial, if you don't have expertise about that deal and you just know it's a good deal, then have a lot of humility about that and go to people that are raising money for those deals and be prepared to share. Because to me personally, like that's the prerequisite. You've got to know what you're doing if you're going to take people's money. So assuming that you do, and if you don't, then just know what your role is. Be like, I'm going to put this deal together. I'm going to benefit from this, but I'm going to assemble the Avengers here. I'm going to put the team together, right?
Mhm.
And so keep all of that sort of humility in check. And I think after you pass that, you believe in the deal, you believe you understand the deal, and you have the skills to sell it. Because I also think there's a lot of downside risk to trying to raise money for projects that are either A, bad deals, or B, a project that you don't have the technical skills to explain, because it just looks bad. You're asking for people's money. You don't fully understand it. So just those are two like important things. I always check myself with those things. Like, do I really understand this deal? Do I really know it's a good deal?
Right.
And then once those two things are met, package it appropriately. If you don't know how to do it, again, like go to somebody that does.
So big.
Which is, and you know this, and
Yes.
and take feedback too, by the way, but like build a deck, like get the spreadsheet made,
Spend the time.
spend the time or the money, like go to somebody like Brecken, there's people out there that can do it. Get the spreadsheet made, get the deck made, go through it before, understand it. This is like homework stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then sit down and explain the deal in an honest and beautiful, and then that's where the magic comes in. Get good at being a good storyteller, a good salesman, because you know this, sometimes there's a great deal, but it's just like the delivery's flat or it like doesn't hit. And while
You don't feel like they believe in the project.
yeah,
And
that's where the
huge.
razzle dazzle is. That's where like what we do is like, that's where I think that I'm excited to continue to learn and grow in this is if I'm only going to be raising money for deals I believe in, right? And that pass those other two tests. So now I just want to get as good as I can get at getting in front of those people. So technical advice to people would be those things. And then as far as people want to see deals, right?
Agreed.
Have the humility to talk to representatives of companies, because they'll put you in touch with the lowest guy, go through the chain, like talk to the guy. And then that way, when you fund the deal, you can tell that guy that you funded it. And then you get to the next deal. So just follow the basic premises. People like Christian and you do an incredible job of hosting opportunities to either A, follow local people that are accessible, that want to look at deals, or B, meetups. There's a million different meetups or networking opportunities. Polish yourself up, like look nice, care, and come try to create relationships that will then cultivate opportunities to pitch the deal. Understand that all of this timing is not going to wind up. It's like you can't just have a deal and then go find it. It's like sometimes you got to have all this foundational work set up where I know I've already networked. So I know the people that have money. I can talk to them in a credible way. They're interested when they see my text. Like think about how to become that, right?
Love it.
And we were talking about before we started recording, right? Connecting with impressive people, genuine. Like if you're genuine and you add value and you have a good deal, like people, that will take you so far in your career, even if they don't invest, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it a million times where it's like Christian then gets in touch about something else or like, hey, I have some money. I'm looking for a deal. I know you had something interesting. But yeah, I would say if you focus on the fundamentals, right? The true fundamentals, if you network, you'd be surprised that the barrier of entry to getting the deal in front of people is not the hard part. It's these other elements that people want to overlook, right?
Yeah.
And
I like what you said too about like the pitch deck, because I think a lot of people underestimate the value of the pitch deck.
Yeah.
that's a good word.
Right, because I have I have a lot of people that come to me and it seems like more like a dream. Hey, what you're going to do is you're going to give me $100,000 and I'm going to give you $1 million back and it's going to be the coolest thing ever. And that's it. So when will you send me the wire? You're like,
Exactly.
hold on, what's the project?
Yeah.
Timeline.
I think the thing that's important to remember, and I just did a video about this, is like when somebody has a complex phone call, 85% of it's forgotten within 2 weeks, right?
Wow.
So you might go over all of these really cool details. You might have this coolest project ever, and there might be a bunch there. But whoever you're presenting that to verbally on the phone, it's going to be forgotten, and it might be a really good deal. But on the other hand, being, from the investor side, like I appreciate when somebody takes the time to go through that. It's a lot of work.
It is.
I get it. And it's a lot, but if you're willing to spend that much time on it and go through the details on there and communicate,
Troubleshoot
and communicate that vision. I mean, first off, you're going to find if there's any flaws in what you're doing, you're going to catch them there. And then you're going to say, what can I do to mitigate those? Right.
Exactly.
Or maybe it's not a deal and we got to move on.
Yeah.
But if it is, then I'm going to catch those, because as an investor, we're kind of always playing devil's advocate. We're always looking like, okay, if somebody brings us a deal, like how can we lose money? That's the first thing, right? And so when you have that pitch deck and you're like, oh, here was a threat, we already analyzed it, here's the solution. Oh, like we're not hiding it, but now I have something visually to look at, and you were very thorough. You spent time on it, which tells me like you care. This project's important to you, right? You've done a lot of homework on it.
You've provided me some history, some background. Like, if people want to get real nerdy, like Brecken and I have, we've taken a lot of
Brecken's like, I am in. Let's go.
No, I mean, to Davis's credit, the only reason some of these really good local revitalization projects have happened through us here in Southern Utah has been because Davis knows these goofy zoning codes that were an overlay adopted like 2 years ago. And let things like that go so far.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll say is just education. You need to be continually learning.
Love it.
Continuous learning is crucial. Psychology of selling talks a lot about this. They say 80% of the income is captured by 20% of the people. And those 20% of the people, what's different? They dedicate themselves to continual learning. There's a few others, but like decisive action, disciplined action.
Love it.
That's a lot. That's the other thing I'd say.
Vocabulary, learning the words and what they mean in a specific industry.
Yeah. We should do this again in a year or two, because we are very early in the learning. We've had a lot of great wins and we've learned a lot, but we're now trying to raise money more than we've ever raised before. We've gotten really good at that sub 10 million, and now we're trying to do more. And we've realized that there's a difference, a very big difference between like golf course money and your friends and family and institutional grade money. And we're learning, and we'll figure it out.
So
hopefully on this deal.
are you okay talking about the Grapevine project a little bit? Because I know you did those other things.
Yeah.
And then I think some of that led to, I believe that Grapevine was your first big deal.
That was the biggest.
Okay.
Yeah. We'd done like 10-acre subdivisions in Ivins. We'd done a few of those.
Okay.
We did so we met the partners that we have now, an incredible group.
That goes back to the team.
Yeah. So really what made this, frankly, what gave us the confidence to fill the gaps that we just mentioned.
Kachina was big though too.
Yeah, Kachina. So we did a project with this team, which was a group that now comprised like a brilliant attorney, a horizontal construction expert, an entitlement, working with the city kind of expert, ourselves with a bunch of real estate and analytics experience, and then a general contractor. So us coming together was, I think, big for all of us. And we had sort of an opportunity to help a lender that had a distressed borrower that he was going to lose the project on. He came to us and was like, guys, this guy's going to lose the project. He's giving me the runaround for a few years. Would you guys want to partner up, come repair this, basically, work with the city, get the development agreement where it needs to go, market and sell the property? And we did that, and we had a decent exit together, right, all of us. And that's what led to us kind of looking at each other and one of our partners saying, listen, I've got a deal I've been working on for 15 years, right? This is the team, the Grapevine project, which is a 370 acre. Now we've acquired more land, 500 acre subdivision.
And there's been a rebrand. It's now called Silver Cliffs.
Silver
You
Cliffs.
all are going to want to live out there.
Silver Cliffs.
Okay.
Yeah, it's where lifestyle meets community.
Yeah.
Okay.
And-
I
and-
like it.
That group, we kind of came together, and that's where that passion, expertise, and like the horse jockey and race all met.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of just like looked at each other. We're like, we have something here. Like, this is an incredible opportunity for us to truly provide affordable housing, a dynamic community,
Mm-hmm.
and change and do so in a way that is going to be incredible for the investors and builders and contractors that are involved. So it was just this like perfect storm where we had this incredible opportunity to develop the land. We got it all put together, and then we spent about a year and a half trying to raise the money. And that's another thing that we learned. It was a complex story that added a lot of the value, but learning to tell a complex story was a learning process as well.
Yeah.
So through a combination of landowners and frankly small investors, I mean, the bulk of this money was raised from onesie twosie accredited investors.
Yeah.
Through a syndication, we were able to close the deal, buy all of the land,
Mm-hmm.
and then we raised the money for the construction. We sold a $90 million bond, right? So huge bond. Not all that'll be used for the construction, et cetera, but 55 or so will be.
Mm-hmm.
So tons of money invested into the community, right?
Wow.
That will build the roads, parks, streets, utilities, water tanks, et cetera, in an area where, again, this will be a community where people will find housing that they can't find anywhere else in southern Utah.
Yeah.
And so that passion, I think, for affordable housing kind of is pushing a lot of that project.
Mhm.
We all believe in that mission, and we're all just trying to like push it. How can we make it better? How can we, make this a more dynamic community? How can we, expand it? And so that coming together has been sort of mind-blowing for us,
Yeah.
and feel so humble and grateful that we're involved with that team. But at the same time, kind of through this conversation, you realize that it's a culmination of a lot of different like hard decisions that you make, put you in that right spot. And then how many times does that deal look like it was dead on?
Yeah. I mean,
Just we've refused to take no for an answer because
Yeah.
we knew everything was right there.
yeah. I mean, in that year and a half of originally not even having it all under contract, because there was 5 landowners and Davis somehow got them all to eventually agree to sell. There was every extension you can imagine, every deal struck to make it all work. A lot of resilience, but also we found people that were way smarter than us in certain areas. Like to Davis's point, there's I guess 4 other partners and then us 2, so us 6. And those 4 each bring a very unique skill set and expertise. One of them in particular, 25 plus years in local government, knowing everything to do with, they're called public infrastructure districts or municipal bonds. And he's taught us a lot of these things. We've learned a ton from him, but we could not have done it without him. And so we found a team that we really believed in, and we just fought tooth and nail, and we're not going to do it. And there has been year and a half of like a lot of dedicated time and effort making no money.
Yeah.
And
But just believing in the overall mission and vision that you're going towards.
we fully believed in it. It was the idea of revitalizing an area that we wished we could move into. I mean, everyone on our team is going to move out there. And it's because it's right where water meets the desert. And you have a little bit of, fertile land.
Such a gorgeous area.
It's a gorgeous area. So, yeah.
And I think like for us too, right now we just feel so blessed to be able to like, so many people are just struggling every day, right? Like to buy a house I think having humility about what you're doing and like, who are these people that are going to live in this community?
Yeah.
What's their mortgage payment? What park are they going to get?
Mhm.
It's like, we really do have a team that's thought about those things and is really doing their best to accommodate like the end community.
Mhm.
And I think that having the right incentives for us there is we're just lucky. It's like to be
Very
able to work
fortunate.
on a project where you can put some of those values to work, and it doesn't feel like you're compromising your return, that you're in fact incentivized to do it. It's good for you,
Yeah.
good for your investors.
Yeah.
It's just like a perfect storm. And so
I love that because it's
Yeah.
not like you're just in it to make a dollar. Like you're in it to make an impact and to help
Yeah.
people and try to provide some affordable housing. And I mean, there's challenges with that, but if everybody's looking at that, like, okay, how do we bring costs down so that the families that are here, right? I guess you're keeping the families in mind that are actually going to live there,
Yeah.
which I think is huge.
And
So
that's
cool.
and that's our intent. Like really going back to a quote from Tyler Durden that we love. He said, "We didn't grow up in a Great Depression nor a Great War. Our war is a spiritual war." And we really believe that there's a spiritual war raging. And this is an opportunity for us to contribute to what we believe is a beautiful project that people can go and again raise kids and create memories. I mean, that's our intent. I hope delivery is the same. But the reality is we were able to get land for a lot cheaper than what you'd find here in St. George. Granted, we're 15 minutes out of town.
Yeah.
Not very far, but the land's a little cheaper. And we found some tools that allow us to do infrastructure cheaper. So we feel as though we can pass those on and hopefully the delivery is received. And it is so exhilarating to one, just learn all about it, but
Yes.
also just like, I feel like we're on a mission. and this is in all our projects. Like we get to go, real estate's fascinating because it connects everyone. I mean, you're a mortgage lender, you can probably share, I mean, 25 to 50% of every single human's income is usually translated to real estate, whether it's a mortgage or rent.
Yeah.
So a
big portion.
huge portion of their life force that they work 8 hours a day earning is put towards that. So being a part of that race is exhilarating. So yeah, we love what we
Silver
do.
Cliffs.
Yeah,
Love it.
honestly,
Coming.
I have
Buy a house.
big
Buy a
things
lot.
are coming.
Do you guys have like an estimated like finish line?
So it's cruising right now. Mass grading is well underway. A lot of it's mass graded and the arterial roads are cut. I believe our first delivery of lots will be this summer.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the goal.
that's great.
awesome.
And then with some additional product coming at the end, there's going to be a really nice hotel, spa, restaurant, good date night
Great.
spot coming.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
I have one question for each of you before we finish up here. Is if somebody younger is watching this right now and they know that they want to do something, they just don't know what they want to do with their life yet. I'm going to start with you, Brecken. What
Okay.
advice could you give them to help them figure that out?
That's a great question.
Put you on the spot.
So my dad's favorite quote is a scripture, and it's by small and simple things, great things are brought to pass.
Love it.
I think the one thing I'd say is do the small and simple things to become the best at whatever you're currently in. And again, it doesn't need to be your end career, but if right now you're working as a barista, be the best fashion barista in the world.
Love that.
And you will, find so much more fulfillment in your life, but also I think your end dream job will slowly end up in your universe.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a good one.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Top that. No, I'm just kidding.
So mine is
He had
gonna,
some time to-
mine is gonna
some
be,
time to think.
mine is gonna be maybe not what you think, but
That's okay.
I would say my first answer would be if you're a young guy or gal and you're trying to decide what you want to do, you want to do something. I would say get in awesome shape would be is what
Love
you
it.
should do.
Okay. Prioritize
Physical
health.
shape.
You should, and not just that, like you should like really get a program where you're moving your body and you're like focused on that. And I think part of the reason for that is because the process of just doing that while you have the energy to do it is healthy. Because I know what it's like to be like, I want to do something. I've got this energy. I need to put it somewhere. It's like taking care of your body will put you in this place where like that energy can be appropriately distributed, because we live in such like a stagnant life and we're not moving. I don't think that we're all like fully operating from pure reason. There's just like a lot of pent up energy. So, and if you're already moving your body and you're in great shape, but I would say do that first. Like prepare the vessel for what you're about to go through, because you'll just be more prepared to take on whatever professional challenge it is if your body's in the right place. But if you're already in good shape and you're already doing that and you built that capacity and discipline, then I'd say like the first thing that you should do is identify an area that you're interested in
Love it.
Identify what is easy for you and hard for other people, if there is anything.
That's good.
If there's anything at all within that space, and then try to apply it at the most basic place that you can. So like, if you're a sales guy, like there's a million real estate teams in town, like that intro people are making it and like making a living. And like we see them at Red Rock. The guys that are there, guys and gals that are there making calls every day, that go and get loans done, that go and stay by a mentor and see the kid that's getting it done. Just for me personally, it's pretty practical. Find what it is you're interested in, what you're capable of, and then just go start applying it. To Brecken's point, like be the best you can be, but really focus on just putting out that output into that area, even if it feels minuscule or small, even if like you won't see an economic return for 3 to 5 years, accept that. And if it comes earlier, it's a bonus.
You'll love it.
Like I really do believe like you've got to be ready to buy in.
Yeah.
So just get started.
Yeah.
Buy in, accept it, love it. You're in medical school of business, right?
Love it.
Beast
Like
mode.
it's good. Yeah, it's gonna. It'll probably suck.
Grind mode.
Yeah.
T-shirt coming soon.
Grind mode.
T-shirt coming soon.
Just accept. It's gonna be hard. There's a buy-in. Which
Can I-
is an easy way.
Can I squeeze one quote that Davis
Yes.
has coined, and I love it, and it's been a big motivator for me. The highest form of spirituality is the pursuit of excellence. And it's so fulfilling to get on that pursuit. So excellence in whatever it is, just go for it.
I love that. Brecken Davis, you are you're two incredible humans, and we appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing these stories. So thanks for coming on to the GrindCast.
Thank you guys. Pleasure.